The moment Derek died, I realized something terrifying. The plasma ring storyline in Beyond the Gates was never really about crime. It was about sacrifice, about how far innocent people get dragged into darkness because evil doesn't just destroy targets, it destroys everyone standing nearby. And honestly, I think a lot of viewers still haven't processed that yet. Because if anyone believes this investigation is over, now that Leah and Ren are arrested, I think they're missing the bigger picture completely. For me, this feels less like the ending of a case and more like the opening chapter of a war. A very dangerous one. Let's talk about it. Derek's death changed everything. Not just emotionally, but structurally. Before the warehouse incident, the plasma ring investigation still felt like a risky undercover operation. Suspenseful? Yes. Deadly? Maybe. But there was still this illusion that the heroes could survive if they were smart enough. Then Derek stepped in front of death itself to save Jacob. And suddenly, the tone shifted. Now, the stakes feel horrifyingly real. That warehouse scene worked because it understood one important storytelling rule. The most painful deaths are the ones that feel preventable. Derek wasn't chasing glory. He wasn't trying to be a hero for attention. He entered danger because he cared about Ashley, because he wanted to protect people, because somewhere deep down he believed doing the right thing still mattered. And that is exactly why his death hurt so much. Not because the show killed a character, because the show killed goodness. There's a difference. I saw people online crying over Derek, and honestly, I understand it completely. The emotional reaction wasn't just fandom being dramatic. It was grief mixed with frustration. Derek became collateral damage in a war he never truly created. He died because evil spreads outward like poison. One criminal network, one violent system, and suddenly innocent people start disappearing. That's what makes the plasma ring storyline feel heavier than a normal soap opera crime plot. It's not random chaos anymore. It has consequences. And Ashley's pain might actually be one of the most devastating parts of this entire arc. Because imagine carrying that guilt. Derek walked into danger trying to protect her. Whether Ashley blames herself openly or not, that trauma is going to stay with her. You can already feel the emotional damage forming before the writers even fully explore it. The silence in moments like these matters more than dialogue. Ashley doesn't need to scream for viewers to understand she's breaking internally. That's smart writing. But here's where things become even more interesting. Derek's death didn't weaken Jacob. It transformed him. And I think some viewers are underestimating what that means. Before this tragedy, Jacob was fighting to solve a case. Now he's fighting for someone's unfinished life. That changes a person psychologically. Derek didn't just save Jacob physically, he gave Jacob a burden, a debt, a responsibility that cannot be repaid normally. Jacob now carries survivor's guilt. And survivor's guilt is dangerous because it creates obsession. You can already see it happening. Jacob is no longer approaching this investigation like a professional assignment. It's personal now. Every clue matters more. Every criminal becomes intolerable. Every failure becomes emotional. He owes Derek his life. Actually, no, it's deeper than that. He owes Derek justice. And that distinction matters because justice is much harder to achieve than revenge. That's why I think Jacob's storyline is entering its strongest phase yet. His determination now feels earned. The show didn't just tell us he cares. It made him suffer first. Good storytelling understands that conviction without pain feels fake. Pain creates purpose. And now Jacob has both. At the same time, the arrests of Leah and Ren are being treated by some characters like a victory. But if you look carefully, the atmosphere of these scenes says something completely different. Fear. Everything feels unstable. Because deep down, everyone knows Leah and Ren are not the top of the pyramid. They are pieces. Dangerous pieces, yes, but still pieces. The real power behind the plasma ring remains hidden, and that's exactly what makes the situation terrifying. The closer Jacob gets to the truth, the more dangerous the truth becomes. And honestly, the show did something brilliant with Leah's arrest scene. For the first time, I didn't just see a criminal. I saw fear, real fear. When Leah begged to go to the hospital, when she screamed about her heart condition, when she panicked over her injury during the arrest, there was suddenly a crack in her armor. The arrogance disappeared for a moment. And I think that scene matters far more than people realize. Because villains become truly interesting when they finally understand they are not untouchable. Leah looked terrified. But here's the uncomfortable part. Her fear came too late. She should have been afraid before entering the plasma ring world. That's the tragedy of characters like Leah. Criminals often believe they're controlling danger until danger finally turns toward them. Up until that handcuff clicks shut, they think they're smarter than the system, smarter than consequences, smarter than death itself. Then reality arrives all at once. And suddenly, they remember they are human. What makes this even more compelling is that the show refuses to fully humanize Leah in a simplistic way. Some series make the mistake of turning every frightened villain into a misunderstood victim overnight. Beyond the Gates is smarter than that, at least for now. Yes, Leah is scared. Yes, she's vulnerable, but her crimes still matter. That balance is important. Fear does not erase guilt. And honestly, I'm glad the show seems aware of that distinction because modern dramas sometimes confuse emotional complexity with automatic redemption. Those are not the same thing. Now let's talk about the biggest issue nobody in the story seems to fully understand yet. Leah and Ren are in extreme danger. Seriously, extreme danger. Why? Because they are witnesses now. And criminal organizations don't protect loose ends. This is where I think the plasma ring storyline could become much darker very quickly. The closer investigators get to identifying the mastermind behind the operation, the more likely it becomes that someone will try to silence Leah and Ren permanently. That's the irony. The moment they were arrested may actually have been the moment their lives became most fragile. And if the writers are brave enough, they could turn this into the most intense phase of the storyline yet. Imagine Jacob trying to protect the very criminals he arrested because they hold critical information. Imagine being forced to keep alive the same people responsible for Derek's death because justice depends on their testimony. That's morally messy. And messy stories are usually the most memorable ones. This is also where I think the show is quietly exposing something bigger about corruption and power. The plasma ring isn't frightening because of violence alone. It's frightening because of how deeply connected it seems to everything. Every layer we uncover reveals another hidden layer beneath it. That's why the investigation keeps feeling unpredictable. The villains aren't just criminals anymore. They're systems. And systems are much harder to destroy. One thing I really appreciate is how the show is slowly revealing the true faces of different antagonists. Some characters who once appeared calm or harmless now feel deeply suspicious. Others are becoming more ruthless the more pressure increases. That evolution matters because it creates paranoia for viewers. Who can Jacob trust? Who already knows more than they pretend to know? Who benefits from Derek's death? These questions keep the story alive beyond pure action. And here's my twist take on the entire situation. I don't think Derek's death was only meant to motivate Jacob. I think it was meant to expose the illusion of safety inside the BTG universe itself. Before this, viewers still subconsciously believed certain characters were protected, that major losses would somehow be avoided at the last second. Now, nobody feels safe anymore. And that changes the emotional contract between the show and the audience. Every future confrontation now carries more tension because we've seen proof that the story is willing to cross lines. Once a show successfully convinces audiences that consequences are real, Every scene becomes heavier automatically. That's powerful storytelling. But I also think the writers need to be careful moving forward because there's a thin line between emotional realism and misery overload. Derek's death worked because it had narrative purpose. If the show starts killing characters purely for shock value, the plasma storyline could collapse under its own darkness. The audience needs hope mixed with fear. Without hope, tension becomes exhausting instead of compelling. And right now, Jacob is carrying the responsibility of being that hope. That's why his next decisions matter so much. If he becomes consumed entirely by rage, Derek's sacrifice loses meaning. But if he transforms grief into determination without losing his humanity, then Derek's death becomes the emotional backbone of the entire storyline. That's the crossroads we're approaching. And honestly, I think the scariest part of all this isn't Leah or Ren or even the hidden mastermind behind Plasma. It's the realization that the deeper this investigation goes, the more it changes everyone involved. Because evil and beyond the gates no longer feels like an external threat. It feels contagious. And maybe that's the real question the show is asking now. How many lives have to be destroyed before the truth is finally worth it?